Happy Wednesday. How are you guys? Are you guys ready to know how this book is going to end? Are you ready? You better be ready. You sure you're ready? I don't know if you're ready, but we're getting there, okay? We have 3 more chapters. I'm actually reading 1 today, so that means we will finish it on Friday. I promise. So whenever I finish today, we have 2 more. And I just was looking ahead, and like I said, you guys better be ready because you don't know how this is going to end. You have no idea. All right, so let's get started. Chapter 10. This is a funny chapter. It's hilarious. Aged mutton. I told you to look up. What is mutton? Mutton is like rotten meat. Okay? So let's find out what does that have to do with Hank. All right, let's go. Must have been a couple of days later that I was sitting on the edge of the cat rock, sunning myself and looking off in the distance. I'd been there most of the day thinking about things and enjoying the quiet, and the coyote village was awful noisy. It seemed that somebody was always in the midst of a squabble. When a husband and a wife had a difference of opinion, they just, by George, had a knock-down, drag-out fight right there in front of everybody. Nobody ever seemed to get hurt in these brawls, and I guess they managed to solve their problems, but I could never get used to the noise of it. And the hair! After one of them family fights, the air was full of fur, and a guy could hardly breathe for all the hair. And then there was the kids. There must have been 10 or 12 pups in the village, and let me tell you about coyote pups. So, before I go into about the coyote pups, though, I didn't mention the last chapter where we left off yesterday. And so what I left off was that, remember, Hank had gone on an adventure with Rip and Snort, and they had been singing, and then he hears this yep, yep, yep in the background, and it turns out to be who? Drover. So Hank goes and visits Drover, and Drover finds out that Hank is, saying he's not coming back, and he's still mad and all this, and, he thinks that Drover's not doing a good job of protecting the ranch, but, Drover's very disappointed at Hank, and he said, you kind of like let me down, and I looked up to you and all these kind of things. So when they left, they kind of were like a little bit fussing at each other, Drover and Hank were. So that's where we left off, okay? All right, so back to about those coyote pups. So let's see what Hank says about them. Now, a dog pup is kind of cute. I'm not real fond of babies, you understand, but even I have to admit, the little old Cowdog pup, he's pretty cute. He'll be fat as a butterball and covered with silky hair, and when he looks up at you with those big soft eyes, you can't help but smile and say, "How's it going, kid?" Coyote pups ain't cute. Now that was dog pups that Hank was talking about first. The coyote, they're not cute. They look mean, they sound mean, they act mean, and fellers, they are mean. They got 2 jaws full of teeth that are as sharp as needles, and their idea of good clean fun is to slip up behind some unsuspecting body, like me, and just bite the heck out of that tail. As a rule, I'm a pretty good sport. I was a kid once myself, and I got into my share of mischief, but I can't get used to people biting my tail. I mean, there's something kind of special and private about a guy's tail. If he's got any pride at all, he tries to keep it nice, and he's a little bit fussy about scabs and bald spots and tooth marks and slobber and all that kind of stuff. What I'm saying is that my tail ain't a play toy. But these kids, they'd sneak up behind me and sink their little needle teeth into my tail. First few times I just growled at them, and I said, "Hey, y'all get on out of here." Didn't work. Coyotes are a little slow about taking a hint. They came back, they did it again. So I took sterner measures. I cuffed one of them. Know what he did? He bit me on the paw. Well, I wasn't going to take that off a darn kid, so I bit him on the scruff of the neck, and he somehow worked his way around and got a hold of my left ear. That got me all inflamed, don't you see? And I put the boy on the ground, and I was spanking some manners into him when his mama walked up. "You brute! Leave my Junior alone!" "Huh?" I looked around just in time to get slapped across the mouth. "There, you bully!" I suppose I shouldn't have slapped her back, but I did. Whap! right across the nose. Maybe you could teach that boy some manners. Whop, chicken dog, whop, wild hag. So they're whopping each other back and forth. She burst into tears and went brawling to her husband, saying I was just an animal and had beat up her dang kid and called her a wild hag. Turned out she was Scrunch's woman. And here he came, all humped up and hair raised and yellow eyes a-flaming. Let me see if I can be still so there's not as much glare on my glasses. I had taken about all I wanted off of Scrunch and his family, and I was ready to go into combat, but Missy and her father jumped in between us and averted a civil war. But the incident didn't do much to improve relations between me and Missy's brother. I had a feeling that sooner or later we were going to have a showdown. Funny thing about all this, them coyotes didn't mind chewing on each other. I mean, they were fighting all the time, but when I tried it, they didn't like it. Made me think that no matter how long I stayed there, they would always think of me as an outsider. Anyway, I was sitting on the ledge, off to myself and away from the noise, when Misty came up behind me. She nuzzled me with her long nose and ran her claws down my backbone. She knew I liked that. Something wrong, Hunk? Hunk looked sad. Aw, it's nothing. Just wanted to be alone, I guess. Not enjoy other coyote? Well, do you ever get tired of all the noise and all that fighting and yelling? She shook her head. That happy sound. When coyote happy, make much noise. When we married, we happy, make much noise too. I see, yeah, well, I guess we have that to look forward to, don't we? When pup come, even more noise. Oh boy. Oh boy. Hunk not be sad. Missy have something to make Hunk feel good. We have feast, special food just for Hunk. I followed her into the village and we went to her parents' den, and they were sitting out in front of the old lady was pulling cockleburrs out of the chief's tail. Missy asked her mother if she would prepare a special meal just for me. She said she would, and she left, and she was gone for 10 or 15 minutes. I tried to make conversation with the old man, but it wasn't easy. He started talking about the old days, about a time when he went a couple of rounds with a skunk. He seemed to think this story was hilarious, and I thought it was moderately funny. The chief was still cackling at his own wonderful story when the old lady returned, dragging in some horrible, stinking something or other. I turned to Missy. What's that? Aged mutton. Aged mutton? Special feasts make Hunk forget sadness, she nodded and smiled. Aged mutton. No doubt it had been buried for a while. It was green, dotted here and there with white spots, which turned out to be maggots. The smell alone could have taken the paint off a corral fence. The taste of such rot was too horrible to imagine. So I told you, remember, it's rotten meat, and they bury it. You know how dogs go and bury their bones and stuff? Well, they bury their food, and they go back to it later. So after it'd been sitting there in the ground for a while, it got even more, it got rotten, and it's got all these maggots on it. Oh, gross. The old lady dragged it up and dropped it right at my feet. When she smiled at me, she looked an awful lot like her daughter, except she had several teeth missing and some of that green stuff hanging off her lower lip. Meat aged for many months, just right for Hunk now. So it had been buried for several months. The old man threw back his head, let out a howl, and dived into it. The old lady did the same. Missy did the same. I took a deep breath, said a little prayer, and I dove in too. Well, let's don't go into any details. It was bad. It was so bad. There are no words to describe it. I'll say no more. An hour later, I was lying down with my head over a cliff. I had emptied my body of everything but blood and a few bones. Missy stood over me, stroking my brow. She had been very nice about it. They all had been, even my future mother-in-law. She had decided that I had drunk some brackish water, and that's what had made me sick. Hunk feel better now? Feel better, sorta. Hunk like coyote feast? Oh boy. Oh boy. Now Hunk make ready for big raid? I raised up my head. Huh? That was the first I'd heard about the raid. This was going to be my big chance to prove to Missy's ma and pa that I was worthy of their daughter. Scrunch was putting the deal together. A raid on the ranch. So here's a picture where Hank got sick after eating the aged mutton. And there's the coyotes. And they're all over there still eating it. See, there's 1, 2, 3 of them. Now they're talking about a raid. A raid on where? On the ranch that Hank left. So what's a raid? It's an attack, okay? They're going to attack the ranch. What does that mean? So if Hank is part of the coyotes now, what are they expecting him to do? They're expecting him to act like a coyote and go and raid and attack the ranch, which means who? Drover, which is his former friend, okay? And the chickens and all that he protected. So this is getting interesting. So I wonder, how is Hank thinking he's going to get out of this situation? Or if he even wants to. Maybe he doesn't want to get out of it. Maybe he wants to stay a coyote. Chapter 11, the attack on the ranch. So we'll find out next chapter. Bye-bye.